Welcome to the Octopod. I'm Kyle Davis, head of the Office of the CTO. Join us as we dive into the latest technologies and trends shaping business. Whether you're a tech enthusiast, a business leader, or just looking to stay ahead in the digital age, this podcast is for you. Let's unlock opportunities with technology together. Let's jump in.
Welcome back to the Octopod. Today it's me, Tim Russell. I'm your host again, and I'm here with Matt Hains from Intel. This is the second in the two-part. The first one we looked at a little bit of the why, and now we want to touch a little bit on the how. And the simplest step when you're getting past experimentation, particularly with AI, is to start mapping out use cases, personas, a readiness plan, but actually showing tangible business benefits. Now, some of those benefits, they come into various different guises and places. And I think one of the ones I'd like to start off, if you don't mind, Matt, is looking at a lot of organizations out there, a lot of our listeners. They will be standardizing on Microsoft management tools, for example. How does Intel work to augment that, to make it better, to make it simpler? How does it bring that compute capability, which you would quite often think, well, it's just silicon, it runs a device. How does it make a difference to an organization planning to run and organize a large group of devices, a fleet of devices?
So, of course, we work very closely with Microsoft on a number of areas, manageability being one of them. I think remote manageability is become more important than ever. Of course, post-COVID, many employees are still in a hybrid model, working at home, working in the office, working at the train, etc. And then I think we also saw just over a year ago, we of course had the Blue Friday, as we refer to it, right, which is when an unfortunate update meant millions of PCs around the world were just in endless loops of blue screens. And so the ability to connect to a device wherever it is, out of band, whatever state it's in, and troubleshoot and repair has really become top of mind since then. Like, what's your disaster recovery plan if all of your PCs suddenly start blue screening, as an example? And so that's where vPro manageability really comes into its own. So we saw on Blue Friday, customers that had vPro manageability set up, they were able to connect to their devices, remove the faulty patch, reboot them and get back to work in hours. Customers that didn't, it took them days to get back to business, with major business implications, of course, to being able to transact and do business. So one of the things we've been working closely with Microsoft on is, well, how can we make that easier for customers to adopt? I know historically there was a certain amount of setup that you had to do to get this vPro manageability working. And what we've done recently is we've made that much, much easier. So we've introduced something called vPro Fleet Services, which essentially is a software as a service solution for vPro manageability, where we're hosting the infrastructure that manages the server side of vPro. And so all you need to do is, in a couple of simple steps, is kind of register your interest, send a file to the device, click on the file, and then you can manage it remotely wherever it is. We started this question with Microsoft, of course. One of the things we've done recently is we've integrated that into the Intune partner portal. And so for customers who are using Intune, they get the single sign-in into the vPro Fleet Services and can manage their devices from that portal. And so that really has been a game changer in terms of adoption of this technology. We now see thousands of customers signing up for vPro Fleet Services and having the ability to manage their devices, whatever state they're in, wherever they are.
It's interesting. I think what you've done there, and for the listeners, I'm just going to highlight it, is a lot of organizations think that software is their security defense. You're logged in, you've got a piece of application or a software protecting that device. Actually, that security belongs outside of the operating system. It belongs at a silicon level. Now, we had TPMS chip 2 for Windows 11, but you've gone to the next level. You've got out-of-band management. You've got even BIOS level management and control at the very root of the device. And I think realizing that there's a difference between front loading a bit of application to feel secure compared to having a secure operating system that's actually supported by a secure hardware vendor. And I think that's quite a massive game changer.
Absolutely. And maybe I can say a little bit more on this. If the hardware's not secure, then the cat's out the bag already, right? If you look at Windows 11, we work very closely with Microsoft on a number of protections in that space. One of them is around the boot process. So essentially, we have protections below the OS that's protecting the boot process, and then when the boot process finishes, we attest to the OS that that's the system's booted successfully without being tampered with, and the OS can now trust the hardware. So that's one level of protection. We also have virtualization technologies built into our silicon. And one of the things that Windows 11 does is it enables you to run processes, run applications in virtual machines that isolate them from the rest of the operating system, and so that protects them, but it also protects the rest of the system from anything that's trying to get out and do malicious things. Probably the third area I'd call out on this one is we can actually use AI on the device now to detect threats. So actually unique to Intel, we have AI-based ransomware detection on the silicon. A ransomware attack, typically is going to be encrypting a lot of files, maybe dropping a file on there with a ransomware request. That uses the processor, of course, to do that. And so using machine learning, we can spot the signs of that, and we can flag it to Microsoft Defender and say, stop this process before it does any damage,
Wow.
right? And actually stop that ransomware.
That's actually really quite impressive, because you're right. You can't encrypt a hard drive without using a processor.
No, exactly.
It's not that you're offloading that, so you can spot that footprint.
Exactly. And that's just one example, right? So in general, AI PCs and using the kind of hardware telemetry, you can spot these types of attacks and obviously get ahead of them and stop them before they do any damage.
Amazing. So moving onwards from there, obviously security is a really important bit, and we touched on this in the first episode we did. We talked about digital employee experience and how important that is. How should customers think about device intelligence, DEX, as we're getting more and more AI workloads? How does this all tie together? What's the Intel perspective on this one?
We see, from a software point of view, more and more software is using the GPU and NPU to do AI on the device. And so that gives you some new features and new capabilities and applications, but it also order of magnitude accelerates existing ones, right? So you get a better experience on existing stuff, and also there's new things that you can do. I think one of the most important things we see on AI PCs is the ability to offload tasks from the CPU to the GPU and the NPU. And those engines are much more efficient at running those tasks. And so it has kind of two benefits. One is the CPU is freed up. It makes the system more responsive, improves user experience. And then the second one is battery life, because they're much more efficient. So, of course, you can run some of these AI workloads on a legacy PC. But what you'll find is the CPU utilization is very high, so that overall responsiveness is poor, and the battery is being drained. So when you move to an AI PC, that experience is so much better.
It's the right tool for the right compute job, so to speak.
Exactly. And then I think the other area I'll dig into based on your question is we're working very closely with a lot of the DEX software providers on how can we use telemetry from the device and AI to interpret that telemetry to then do something useful, like predictive maintenance or at least alerting, whether that be alerting IT or alerting the user to something that's not right. So using AI to do anomaly detection and then taking action based off of that.
But that's AI on the end user device.
Absolutely.
So you're actually doing it at the end user's experience, and you're not uploading it to a cloud, and if the user is disconnected, they're still provided that benefit of, I can't get on the network, or this network's not good. That local AI compute capability, because well, here's potentially where your problem is, going to help you resolve that, changes massively the way the world's going to work.
I really think so, right? So ultimately, I guess the vision is if something's going bad, it's spotted and fixed automatically. And then if there's a hardware component that is coming to the end of its useful life, an alert is sent to IT or an alert is sent to the user, go and get this fixed before it fails. And then that way that they remain productive and they don't end up with the issues, etc. So
I think 2026, we've said it before, there's two main topics for me. It's going to be AI accountability. You can't just do AI, you have to show value on it. The other one is employee experience. This whole protecting the experience, being able to offload it to the end user and go for something my colleague talks about, zero ticket architecture. You still create a ticket, but it's also automatically closed so that there's a problem, but it's dealt with at the end user device. The people who need to fix the problem immediately, who don't want to wait days for a callback, can now be given the power to fix those problems. And I think having that compute capability, having the applications out there, and having that teamwork across you, Microsoft, all of the DEX suppliers is going to start making a game-changing experience for our end users. Really, really looking forward to that one.
Absolutely.
So moving on, third question. Let's go for a different angle. So we've looked at the device security. We've looked at protecting the experience. Let's talk about protecting the physical device. When we look at component transport, the build of devices, there's a whole story, as I understand it, about how you can secure not just the supply chain, but this understanding of accountability within a capability of a product to reach agreed levels. Do you want to dig into that and help me, apart from anything else, as well as our listeners, understand a little bit more about what that actually means from an Intel perspective?
One of the things we're doing this year with Intel Core Ultra Series 3 vPro is we're taking what we're calling our Intel Assured Supply Chain capability, and we're offering that for free on all vPro processors. And so what Intel Assured Supply Chain is a way of digitally attesting the supply chain, basically the route through our supply chain that the processor took. So you can understand that the chip was manufactured in Ireland, it was shipped to Costa Rica, in Costa Rica it was finished, and then obviously it was shipped to one of our OEM partners, right? And that's digitally attestable. So we know, unfortunately, the world right now, there's a lot of geopolitical tensions and challenges, and people, whether it's China or wherever else, certain industries are very keen on understanding exactly where their product was manufactured and the state it went through. So with Intel vPro now, you get that for free. And then our OEM partners build on top of this, of course. I think if you look at Dell, HP, and Lenovo, they all have assured supply chain type technologies where when you receive the device, you can check all the components, check all the software on the components, and make sure that when you receive them in the state they left the factory and so they haven't been tampered with.
Yeah.
So no, this is definitely a hot topic, and especially, of course, anything government, anything defence, even financial services. We see a lot of customers in this space really care a lot about this, and so that's why we're continuing to innovate and offer more solutions here.
It's no longer, getting back to what we were saying earlier, it's no longer enough just to have a bit of software. You need to know that software is running on something you can be guaranteed and sure of every single component's life journey to get to you. That was, especially in those military services. Interesting. Very interesting. Well, thank you, Matt. I'm gonna wrap this one up here and say that there was 3 really interesting things there. How you embed with existing tools and how you change the way a fleet can be managed, especially that out of band. I mean, it is game changing. How you enable that self-help, that DEX capability on the end user device. I think we are going to see an uplift in that, but you have to be on that AI journey to be able to take the best benefit from those tools. And then finally, knowing that what you've got, and forgive me for using the term, but nobody ever got fired for buying Intel, right? And there's a reason why. It's because of that security you have around the supply chain. It's understanding where it came from, where it went, what happened to it, and when did it get into my device. I think that gives a certainty to anyone buying an Intel-powered product going into the future. You can be sure that AI is going to be on the roadmap. You can be sure where the device came from, and you can be sure your users are actually going to be asking for Intel because it makes a difference to how they do their job. That would be my perspective going forward.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you for your time, Matt. And until next time on the Octopod.
Into today's episode, be sure to check out the back catalogue for more great insights. Don't forget to subscribe via your favourite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. We appreciate your support. And if you have a topic you want us to cover, feel free to reach out. Catch you next time.